Let's continue. Let's see what's happening. Um, one of the saddest things that we can read in the Bible. That's what we're reading these days. So, um, they decided to take Jesus to Pontius Pilate because he's the governor, the Roman governor, who is in charge of Judea, the whole country. And he's the only one. I mean, they cannot kill somebody without the approval, without uh, the Roman government allowing them to do that. If Roman government does not allow them to kill people, they cannot kill anybody. That's why they're taking Jesus to Pilate. Here's the Praetorium, Pilate's living quarters in Herod's palace. I was told you have an insurrectionist. Why can this wait? Insurrectionist, insurrectionist is a person who is causing the rebellion. Here's Pontius Pilate. And here's a person, one of the high priests, maybe a high priest, or one of the priests. This is a dangerous criminal, a subversive rabbi. He opposes paying taxes to Caesar, and he calls himself the Jewish king, the Christ. So, are you? Asks Pilate. Are you the king of the Jews? Yes. You see? So take him and judge him, Caiaphas. We have. But we cannot execute him. The real penalty for his crimes, only you can, because he deserves death according to the Jewish law, inside the palace. You fascinate me, Jesus. You look like no insurrectionist, but you have stirred them up. So are you the king of the Jews? And Jesus answers, is this your own question? Do you even care about my answer? I'm not a Jew. Well, he's Roman, right? He's not a Jew. Does he care about Jesus' answer? Let's see. He says, I'm not a Jew, but your own people handed you to me. Just answer my question. And Jesus answers, my kingdom is not of this world. So you are a king? Yes, Jesus responds, born to testify the truth. Whoever is on the side of truth listens to my voice. Truth, says Pilate. What is truth? Back at the gate. There is nothing to charge him with, Caiaphas. There's nothing to charge him with. Caiaphas, take him away. He started stirring up people from Galilee to here, and he won't stop. He's Galilean. I know what to do. That's Herod's jurisdiction. And Herod was the king of the Jews. He was the king under the Roman government. So Roman government controls the country, but still they have their own king, King Herod. He's in charge of the Jews, but the Roman government controls the whole country still. And that's why Pilate says, because Jesus is from Galilee, send him to Herod. Let Herod, the king of Jews, the actual Jewish king, let him decide what to do with Jesus. So nobody wants to, take the responsibility of killing Jesus because there's nothing wrong with him. He didn't do anything wrong. That's why they do not want to kill Jesus, just because these priests ask them to. And here's Herod. Herod says, Jesus, I've heard so much about you. I've wanted to see you for a while now. And now Pilate just drops you in my lap. What a gift. Now, do one of your miracles, please, Jesus. And he says he is the king of the Jews, King Herod, says the high priest, and that he's the son of God. And that, I know, says Herod, king of the Jews. He doesn't defend himself. Bring Barabbas out. Smell him. Look at him. I can't do anything about the smell, but bring me one of my best robes. And then, so they put a purple robe on Jesus. Purple represents royalty. So they're kind of mocking him because he calls himself the king of the Jews, or that's what they call him. Herod put a purple robe on him and says, take him back to Pilate. And Pilate says, so after Herod kind of played with him, talked to him and asked him some questions, he sends him back to Pilate. And Pilate says, I find no reason to execute him. Herod sent him back with the same conclusion. I'll punish him, says Pilate, and I'll release him. No, say the priests. Kill the liar, kill the heretic. Sir, your wife sends this. Somebody came with a message from his wife. Bring the other prisoner out. And this is what his wife wrote. Have nothing to do with this man, with Jesus. He's an innocent man, and I have been tormented with a dream because of him. So he's been warned not to harm Jesus. And yet, let's see what's happening. As Rome traditionally does for you at your Passover feast, I offer you a choice, says Pilate. Well, because he expects people to do the right thing, right? Little does he know. He says, we release one prisoner to you every year when it's a Passover celebration, because it's a festival, everybody's happy. We release one of the prisoners to make you happier. So now he says, choose between Jesus, who calls himself the Christ, or Barabbas, the murderer who led an uprising here in the city. Choose Jesus or Barabbas, a killer, a murderer. Who will you choose? And people say Barabbas. Barabbas. Some say Jesus, but most of them say, give us Barabbas. But Jesus has done nothing. What would you have me do with him? What do you want me to do with Jesus? Crucify him. Death. Crucify him. People shout. And he's like, I wash my hands of this. He's washing his hands as a symbol. He says, it's not my fault. It's not my decision. I'm innocent. You yourself chose to kill Jesus. That's why he's washing his hands. This man is innocent, and so am I, says Pilate. His death is your responsibility. His blood is on us and on our children, people shout. They themselves accepted it. Release Barabbas. Take Jesus away and have him flogged, says Pilate. And so we'll read the next part of the story tomorrow. Let's read about Pilate. Pilate must decide. Gaina's hand is up. Gaina, will you read this part to us, please?
Okay. Pilate must decide. The religious leaders took Jesus to Pilate, the Roman governor. They lied about Jesus and accused him of misleading the people. So Pilate asked Jesus, are you the king of the Jews? Yes, it is as you say, Jesus replied. Then Pilate spoke to the chief priests and to the crowd, saying, I find no reason to condemn this man. When Pilate found out that Jesus came from the region ruled by Herod, he sent Jesus to Herod, who happened to be in Jerusalem at that time. But Herod too could find no fault with Jesus and sent him back to Pilate. Again, Pilate could not find Jesus guilty of a single crime. So he took a bowl of water and washed his hands in front of the crowd. Then he had Jesus beaten and handed him over to the people to be crucified.
The question is, why did Pilate wash his hands? Thank you, Gaina, for reading. Asid, please.
Why did Pilate wash his hands? By washing his hands in front of the crowd, Pilate was trying to prove that his hands were clean, that there was no blood on his hands from sentencing an innocent person to death. Yet, by not using his power and position to make a fair judgment, Pilate chose to side with the unjust. Although he knew that the religious leaders were jealous of Jesus, Pilate was too scared to take a stand against them. He even tried to pass the responsibility for the decision onto Herod, hoping that he would make a decision about Jesus. Every person has to make the decision Pilate had to make, either to be for Jesus or against him. Jesus said, he who is not with me is against me. Matthew 12:30. Because Pilate was afraid to decide for Jesus, he went along with the crowd's decision to be against Jesus.
Thank you, Sid. Verse for today. Ready? Go. Jesus answered, you would have
Jesus
no power
answered,
Jesus
over
you
answered,
would
me
"You
have
if
no
it
have
were
no
not
power
power
over
given to
me
over
you
if
me
it
from
were
above.
not
if it was
given
not
to you
John
given to
from
you
19,
above.
from
11.
John
above."
19,
John
11.
19:11.
Yes, Pilate was scared. Pilate was afraid of people. He wanted to please people. So that's the decision we all have to make, either to please people or to please God. He had to compromise. He knew what the right thing is, but he didn't take a stand for the right thing. He went with pleasing people. And by doing that, he was responsible for the death of Jesus. Even though, of course, it was God's plan that Jesus would die for our sins, still, Pilate's lack of decisiveness, making correct decision and taking a stand for what is right, that's going to be counted against him. Let me tell you about Barabbas. I need a whiteboard. Barabbas. So we had Jesus on this side. And we had Barabbas. That doesn't look like B. I'm sorry. Barabbas. Okay, is there a double B there? Yeah, I think there's a double B there. Let me add one more.
Double.
Yeah, double B from Abba. So we had Jesus and we had Barabbas. Barabbas is a murderer. Barabbas is a killer. Barabbas is all the bad things. And we have Jesus, holy Jesus over here on this side. The Son of God, the one who's never sinned, the one who was a model, an example for everybody to follow, the one who spoke the truth. Barabbas is the one who destroyed lives, the one who disobeyed, the one who, a sinner. The sinner, as bad as they go, pretty much. And what happens? There's a choice. Do you choose Jesus or do you choose Barabbas? What happens to Jesus happens to Barabbas. Yes, Jesus is sentenced to death. Jesus takes the sin of the world and he becomes sin. He becomes sin itself and he's crucified on the cross. He takes all the sin on himself. And Barabbas, who was this, ugly, dirty, sin-filled person, his life was all about sin. He gets to go free because his sin is carried by Jesus. He gets to go free. He's forgiven. He gets freedom. He's free. And do you know what Barabbas means? Bar means son. Abbas means father. Abba. Barabbas means the son of the Father. And just like in today's speech in STEM, some of you were there. Remember how I said, I'm Gomer? Well, I'm Barabbas. I am the son of the Father. Or you can say that I am a daughter of a father.
I'm Gomer.
Yeah. Oh, you're not Gomer. You're Guyana.
Yeah.
Here in this story, Barabbas is us, human beings. It's me. I'm the person who deserves to be condemned and crucified because of my sin, and yet I get to go free. I get to experience freedom. I don't have to die anymore. And Jesus is the one who takes my sin, and he has to die for it. And that's the same story everywhere. It doesn't matter which book in the Bible you read, it's all about Jesus. Jesus is in the center of it all. It's all about God's love for us. Doesn't matter where it is. Like all these people, it just makes sense when you look at everything through the lens of Jesus. It just makes sense. And that's what happens in today's story. I am Barabbas. I am Gomer. And Jesus, he's the one who dies for our sin. He's the one who loves us no matter what. He's the Holy One, the one who's never sinned, and yet he decides to come and die for my sins. I guess that's something we can never stop talking about, right? Something we can never stop feeling thankful for. That's what we believe. That's what we do here. And that's why we sing and worship, because of that. Aren't you glad to be the son or the daughter of the Father? Yeah, Hitashi is yawning. I guess you are. Thanks for your responses, Temika and Guyana. Let me stop the recording.